Okay, this is section 6-6, using proportions to solve percent problems, percent word problems. All right, so Steve and Jim played basketball. Who shot better? If Steve shoots 8 out of 13 and Jim shoots 5 out of 8, that makes this difficult to compare. So we can set it up as a proportion and set it up equal to a percent over 100. And what would I do next, Jazz? We cross multiply to figure out the percent. So what would I get, Jasmine? 800 equals 13x. To get the x alone, we have to use our properties of equality. And we're going to use the division property of equality to get x alone. Divide both sides by 13. And now I'm left with x is equal to 61.5, or 61 5/10. Now remember, if you're forgetting how to do the division, the top dog is going into the dog house. We put the 800 in the box. And the 13 here, I'm going to try, 13 times 5 is 65, so I'll go up. Okay, 13 doesn't go into 8, so I move over one digit, and I get 18, carry the 1, 78, remainder of 2, it goes one time. I have a remainder of 7. I can bring down, I can add a decimal, bring down one more 0. Times 5 is 65. I have a remainder of 5. I can stop about there. So I could say, what percent is this? Now take it back to the story. What percent does this work out to be? Sabina?
61.5%.
About 61.5%. Now because I'm cutting it off there, it's going to be about 61.5%. So Steve is shooting at a 61.5% out of every 100. Pause the recording, and I want you guys to figure out the next one. Go. Okay, so what would I do next for this one? Sabina.
We would cross cancel.
Not cancel.
Cross multiply.
Cancel is when you divide it out and you put a line through it, okay? And so now what am I going to end up with? What will the next line?
It's 500 equals 8y.
So I'm doing this, and I get 500 equals 8 times y is 8y. Next step.
Then you divide both sides by 8.
Okay. Division property of equality. And y is equal to?
It equals 62.5.
Is it exactly or is it about? Okay. So take that back to the story. Sabina?
It's about 62.5 out of 100.
Okay. So the question is, who shot better? Okay. So Jim shoots better. Okay. Questions. So that's one way, like if they give us fractions to compare, we can compare the percents. As opposed to comparing these fractions with different. Now, why don't you let's do number 1 really quick because it's easy. And we're going to move on. Convert that to a ratio. The same way, if this was Jim, he'd be 8 out of 13. So the only thing different you're doing here is they're giving it to you completely. What if he shot 3 out of 5? So create the ratio and then convert it to a percent. Okay, go. Okay, so I saw 2 students do it in 2 different ways. One, set up the ratio, which is the fraction. 3 goes on top. The second one goes on the bottom in the denominator. And I say 3 out of 5 is equal to x out of 100. I do my cross multiplying and I get 300 equals 5x. divide both sides by 5, and I get x equals 60. I did see somebody else do it like this. Okay, they went from 3 out of 5, and then they just put right away 3 into the division box and did this. Okay, so 5 does not go into 3, but it goes into 30 6 times. And so, but the problem here is, what? Am I done? Is that a percent? Sabina, what do I need to do?
You need to move the decimal places.
Right, so 3/5 is equal to 0 and 6/10, but I have to convert that to a percent. And so I have to make that 60%. Move the decimal 2 places, once, twice. It now goes here. This is the decimal. This is the percent. This is the ratio or the fraction. But they're asking for a percent. Does that make sense? So just make sure if you do this that you don't stop here. Is that clear, everyone? Okay, so let's move on to, tell me something. 19 out of 20 should be close to what percent? You should be able to estimate this. Round up. What do you say, Pedro?
50%.
50%, that's pretty close too. So if I'm doing this, you got to use your head and have your number sense kick in. The answer you get in that situation should be pretty close. Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah.
We got 47 and a half.
That sounds about right. I think my PowerPoint's wrong. 19. Yours sounds right. 47 and a half is right. This is wrong. Here. Okay. Thank you. Now the PowerPoint is forever right. Okay. All right, so I'm going to move on. Do you feel like you've had enough? Let's go on to okay, so they're going to give you word problems. There's 2 different methods. I'm going to teach you both. Today we're going to do proportions. Tomorrow you're going to do word problems. In the future, after the test, you get to choose whichever method you like better. What percent of 200 is 80? When we use the is over of method, this is really talking about a part to whole. So when I see what percent, remember we said percent always goes over 100? Okay, so when it says what percent, we don't know what that number is over 100, so we're going to put N or X. And now, it's percent over 100 is equal to is over of. So my is will go in the numerator, my of goes into the denominator, meaning the number that is closest to the is. Let's go back. Let me go do this. Let's go back here. Let me start with this. Let me give you a formula here. All right. When you're doing something like this, Sorry about that. Okay. The formula is over of equals percent over 100. It can also be written as percent over 100 equals is over of. Okay? Either of those will work. It's the same thing, they're just in different order. Now, when I talk about the is, now you look for the number that is closest. Now, I know you're saying, gee, is in between 200 and 80. But the problem is, although is in between 2, of is only close to the 200. So the of has to be where the 200 goes. Does that make sense? So if I'm doing this, I'm going to okay, I'm going to put my 200 where the of is. Now, if the of is 200, what number must the is be? 80. So I'm going to put my 80. And then I've got my what percent is n, every per cent over 100. Does that make sense? Okay, so now I do my cross. Now, you can reduce before you do the math. What can I simplify this by? I'm going to actually just watch this. Divide by 10. I could probably do more, but I'm just dividing by 10. So now what I have is 8 over 20. Do you understand? So I divided out 10. And now I've got 20 times n is 20n. And 100 times 8 equals 800. It's just going to be one less 0 on each side. Divide both sides by 20. And n is equal to 2 goes into 80. 40 times is equal to n. Okay, did that make sense? Okay, so you can see my PowerPoint set it up a little bit different. Now, the one thing I want you to think about and add this, because when we find the n, that's really what they're saying is this is the part of the whole. The 40 out of 100 is the part out of the whole pie. Or 80 is the part out of the 200. So when it says what percent of 200, of is your whole. It is 80 is your part. A piece of the whole. That's what we're really finding. How much of that pizza? If the pizza were sliced into 100 pieces. Okay. Questions? Somebody's alarm goes off every day. Whose is it? Huh? Yeah. Oh, okay. So, whoops. Here we go. All right. So, let's try this one. How am I going to set it up? How are we setting it up? Who wants to give it a go? Sabina's going to take the plunge. She might be wrong, but it's okay. We don't care. Because this is where we do our learning.
So the whole is
How about, let's set it up. Is over of equals percent over 100. Okay, so what am I putting? What?
the 25 is and the 40 is 5.
25. Notice this goes here. This goes here. And what do I put where?
Oh, and then that would be like x over
N over 100. There we go. Now we are going to use our cross products. And what will I get here? Next line, somebody else? Nishat, how's this going to look?
40n,
40n,
then 100,
what?
350 over 40,
40n equals,
250.
how about 2 zeros? You got it. It's not 250. It's 25 plus 2 zeros. 2,500. Okay, next part. Tanya. Division property of equality. And n is equal to, right away, I'm getting rid of my zeros. There's 2 zeros on the end. Now, 4 is easier to go into than 40. 4 into 250. And what did you guys get? Let's go 6. It's 24. The remainder of 1. 0. It goes 2 times. It's 8. I have 2. I'm going to bring down. What happens if it doesn't go in and I have a remainder? Yeah.
Oh, wait. Oh, can I see the answer?
What happens if I'm at the end and it doesn't go anymore? And I have a remainder. Jasmine? And bring down the 0. And so now it goes and 5/10. So now the big thing here is you have to make sense of the question. 25 is what percent of 40? Give me an answer now. Sabina.
25 is 62.5% of 40.
Right. So what's not only going with this, but you have to put 62.5%. You have to put the percent sign because it's saying what percent. Does that make sense?
She said she got let out at the bell yesterday.
Yes, sorry about that.
Okay. Just checking her.
That was me.
Okay. See ya. You can go pretty soon.
Okay. Okay. So just remember to make sure you add that percent sign. Otherwise, I don't know if you know what they're looking for. Okay. Now, in this question, look at that question. What are they looking for? But in this question, what are they looking for? Angela?
The whole amount?
They're looking for the whole amount because remember, is over of, part over whole. So they're looking for the whole number, not a percent. Okay, so what am I filling into my is over of? I want to hear from somebody I haven't heard from. Okay, what am I filling in here? Someone I haven't heard from. Ashley.
30 goes over 24.
What is the no? Remember, it's is over of equals percent over 100. What is your of?
24.
No, because 24 is attached to what? Look at it. It's attached to the percent.
Oh, so then 24 would go, 24% would go over 100. And,
Right, and I just write the 24.
And n goes under.
Right, because what's attached to of? The what. And when we have the what, we put the x or the n. And there we go. There's our proportion. Now you guys finish it up. Go. Now we are going to find the amount of a whole number. Remember, the 80% goes with the percent. And my what number is my is x. So that would be n over 360. And we're just working on right now how to set these up, because now I'm going to assume that you can use your cross products to solve. So you should have gotten n over 360 equals 80 over 100. Okay. Now let's set up the next one. What is 18% of 300? Okay, Sabina, how am I setting it up? Well, let me hear from somebody else to set up. Amanda.
Okay, so you would put is over
Okay.
over 100. Then
Good.
it would be, then you would put x over 300 equals 18 over 100.
Perfect. So notice she went right for the 18 over 100. She knew that. And the is the x over the of 300. You guys good? You ready for one, Jeanette? Okay. Okay.
Put 75 over 450
Beautiful.
and n over 100.
Perfect. You guys good? You getting it? Devin, you ready to set one up for me?
Are you kidding me?
Donovan.
Devin's a girl's name.
It is not. It's his brother's name. It's not.
Is it a unisex?
Okay.
Yes.
I just know a girl's name.
Okay. Next. One more. Let's do one more. Donovan. Shh.
Okay, so you set it up 60 over 100,
Beautiful. Loving that.
and
Donovan.
thank you, and 42 over n. I know, I saw
Is over of. Yeah, you're right. 42 over n. Beautiful. Thank you, Donovan. Sorry. You get that nice. Okay, you guys getting that? Okay, let's make sure there's nothing else left here for. Okay. Now, that is the lesson for today, 6-6. Homework is page 308, 1 through 44 even.